everybody. I am coming today to you guys. It's your girl Brittany, and I'm coming to you guys today with my story. I told you guys in my last video that I was going to tell you guys my story, and this is a tell all truth story. And the reason that I decided to do a tell all truth story is just because I feel so many times people have stories that people don't know about, and they look at people a specific way, not knowing that they've gone through their own trials and tribulations. I feel like everybody takes the good parts of people's life, and then they look at them and they feel like everything's all good because they portray a certain image or they have certain things, and people don't really look at what it took to get them there. So this is my good, bad, ugly of everything of my life. So I'll be talking about different topics and different subjects but I'm starting today with my molestation story because it's the really youngest thing that I remember, and it's kind of where my early memories start off at. So here you go. And just so you guys know, it's not a pity story. This isn't a sad story. This is the story of what happened, how I got through it, the things that I went through because of it, how I got through it, and who I am today, and kind of how it makes me up to who I am and the reason that I'm embarking on these journeys that I'm embarking on. So yeah, here goes. So, again, it was my earliest memory. I can't really tell you guys specifically the very first time. I want to say I was around 4 years old, and I remember bits and pieces of it, but I just remember that something wasn't quite right. So I was about 4 years old. I was molested by my grandfather, which was really, really hard for me, especially being at a very little age, because I was unsure of a lot. I didn't have a father growing up. So the only father figure that I had was my grandfather on my mom's side of the family. And I knew, like I said, at an early age that things just didn't feel right. I remember bits and pieces from the first time that I was molested. I remember the pain of it. I remember the hurt of it, and just kind of being unsure where to go or what to think after that. And then it also made it hard because we grew up in a church, and I'm very faith-based. I still believe in God. I still believe and have my faith, and I don't feel like anybody can move my faith. But at that young of an age, you're just kind of unsure about a lot of things, right? So fast forward again, I remember it happening again when I was about 7. Now 7, you're at the age where you kind of remember, right? So you remember the inappropriate touches, you remember the inappropriate talks, you remember, someone going inside of your pants, you remember all of that. And now it kind of puts things into perspective that at the age of 7, it put things into perspective for me, because I remember being touched at 4. I remember my underwear being pulled down. I remember the scenes around me. I remember the room. I remember the bed. I remember the talks of you don't want to say anything and you don't want to ruin someone's reputation and things like that. And you're very manipulative. It's very manipulative to do or say those kind of things to a kid who's under 10, because they don't really grasp the difference between right and wrong at that time. But at 7, I knew that the second time that it happened, that it was so inappropriate, and it was the worst thing that could happen to me. And I felt the pain of every ounce of it. And again, I still remember the place. I remember the room. Like, those images don't go away from me. And I tell this story, and I'm not ashamed at this point in my life to tell my story, because at that age, I did not have the courage to stand up and to tell anybody. So I kind of just dealt with the pain myself. And it was so hard, like I said, because we're in a church, we're watching him preach to all these people and tell everybody the good news of God. And at the end of the day, I know that I've been hurt by someone who preaches the good word, right? So What do you do at that age? Well, I like I said, I didn't tell anybody. I was really, really scared to tell anybody. I didn't really think that anybody would believe me because he's this big authority figure, and all these people thinks he's just great, and he has all these people praising him, which is also wrong, because we shouldn't be praising people, we should be praising God. That's an idol. When you decide you want to praise somebody, that's an idol, and that's against the Bible. The Bible says that God doesn't want you to praise anybody or give anybody worship but him. But as a child, you don't see it like that, right? So yeah, I'm in church. I'm trying to believe in God. I'm trying to pray. I'm confused, wondering why this happened to me. And then it also over sexualizes you as a child. So I just didn't want to be here anymore. I was very, very depressed. I was very suicidal. I can tell you, out of all of the times I attempted to commit suicide, God felt, obviously, even at that young of an age, that there was a purpose for my life and that my story will be told one way or another, right? But I remember taking a handful, like a whole handful, just taking the pills. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I didn't overdose, but I just began throwing up. So I guess I'm assuming I threw up all the pills, because look, I'm here today and I'm talking to y'all, right? I tried to hang myself, I don't know how many times. And one time it actually I almost really, really hurt myself, because I was standing on a chair and I kind of kicked the chair from underneath me. But it was like the rope was around my neck, and I just remember I was scared, but I just felt like there was purpose in my life. I think that was one of my last attempts. I really felt, even at a young age, this went on from age 7 to probably about age 9, but I still felt at that young of an age that there was some type of purpose in my life and God had something more in store for me. But that was my last time. But it was wrapped around my neck, and I just remember, like, I'm dangling, yet I'm still trying to pull it off, because I'm like, oh my God, this is a mistake. I know that this happens to you. I know that you feel worthless. I know that you feel like you're not worth anything. But somewhere deep inside of me, I still felt like I was worth a little something, and I just couldn't see taking myself out like that. So you have people who actually commit suicide, and you have people who attempt to commit suicide, and I know it's a lot of them out there. And I know that it's so hard when you're in the midst of the pain and the trials and the tribulations, and you're trying to figure out and you're trying to understand why these things are happening to you. But I don't think you can really understand, especially depending on the age that you are. So I kept it a secret. I kept me trying to commit suicide a secret. I used to cut myself. I used to cut just to get away from the pain. I used to try to, cut my wrists, cut my ankles. And then it got to the point where I cut myself on my wrist one time, and the scar took a long time to heal. And then I was nervous because I didn't want anybody to ask me the reason that I was a cutter. I just didn't have any other outlet. And I think that you don't really feel in control. You feel like, no matter what you do, someone can take advantage of you, and then they can make you hold these secrets, and they can make you feel bad. You almost feel guilty. Like, what part did I play in this? Did I do anything wrong that could have provoked this? And the answer now I know is no. There's no excuse. There's no reason. There's no rhyme. There's no reason for anyone's behavior. And then you get to this point where you don't care what anybody thinks. You don't care what they say. You come to this really good place of healing. And the healing for me came from really talking to God and really getting to know myself. And then as an adult, I had to face the things that I let control me and hinder me in my past, so that I can get to the place where I want to be in helping others. I did not really feel that I could help other people unless I started with myself and started to really examine myself and talk about my real truths and the reason that I am the way I am and the angry person that I was for years. So, it didn't all come full circle immediately because I'm just 31 years old and I'm just now telling my story, but I'm not just now telling my story to, of course, the world, but I also just told my family members. So it's not like anybody was in on this and knew anything about it. I just did not know who to turn to. But I also remember as a child that I wanted someone, just anyone to have a story like mine and tell their story. And then maybe I would feel more comfortable telling my story. And I know in today's world, it's a lot more vocal than it was when I grew up. We didn't have internet, we didn't have phones to just jump on and see whatever. But I know nowadays that the topic and the conversation is so important, and it's so important for authority figures for people to tell. It's not okay to do this to anybody. It's not okay to ruin lives. It ruins life. It ruins life from the time that child, teenager, adult, young adult, old adult. I mean, sexual abuse happens at any age, and it can happen to any sex and any gender. So it is so hard when you feel that you see someone with so much power and you're just this little person and you're just so helpless. But I'm here to tell y'all, your story needs to be heard. Your story is important. And yes, there's going to be backlash from people around you because people are not going to understand, and they're not even going to understand why you decide to get up and tell your story. But there's a point that you also get in your life where you understand that you don't want to be around toxic people, that you're not going to continue to enable an enabler, and you're not going to keep your mouth shut anymore. You get the courage, you get the strength, you get the power to tell your story. And for me, it came from God. I had to examine myself. I had to tell myself my ugly side of the story because I was so good at depicting the good parts of my life that I learned to ignore the bad parts of my life. And the bad parts of my life is what causes the anxiety and what causes the depression. Honestly, when I am in full truth and I'm really in a good place with God, and I'm really in a good place with intentions and purity and talking to people and helping people and telling people my story, and I see the impact it has in helping other people, I'm in a good place and I don't have anxiety and depression. But then when I start listening to the toxic people in my life, telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do, instead of just listening to God, because we are all human and we all make mistakes. So my advice or someone else's advice may not be the right advice for you. I just know that I was lost for so many years. I self-medicated. I turned to drugs. I turned to alcohol. I turned to, sleeping around, not knowing my worth, not knowing how beautiful I am, not knowing how beautifully broken I am. Yeah, I was broken for a very long time because of the things that happened to me and the conflict that I had because of who the person was. It made everything very weird for me. So for years, I lived a double life. I lived my good side of my life, and then I always knew I had this dark side, and nobody ever knew anything about the dark side of my life because I didn't display it. I just got really, really good at putting on a mask and showing everybody this face. And then on the other side, knowing I would go home and cut myself or try to kill myself, and I didn't want to be in this earth or in this world anymore. But I also knew that God had a purpose for my life, and he wanted me to do something with my life. And I believe my purpose in life is to help others. And in order for me to get to that stage of helping others, I had to get down to the nitty of the gritty. So I prayed. I asked God to first give me healing. Let me accept the things that have happened to me and the things that I could not change. I cannot change what happened to me. I can only accept that it happened and figure out how to move on. So I asked for insight and wisdom. I wanted God to really heal me and heal my mind and let me see the things that are not correct. It wasn't correct what happened to me, and I seen it. And once I seen it, I was able to remove myself. Removing yourself can be so hard. And you can be in a toxic situation and not even know it. I have so many different analogies, but I like to think of it as, you're bitten by a poisonous snake and there's venom running through your body, and your cure and your medication's at the hospital. So you got to go to the hospital and you got to get the anti-venom. And once they put that in, some people survive it and some people don't. It's up to the victim if they're going to survive the attack or they're not. I could have sat there on the side of the road and been sorry for myself and say, oh no, there's no way that I'm going to get up and try to fight my way out of this and go to the hospital and go get help and go get my anti-venom. I could have sat there and I could have died and let it eat me up until I'm done. And so many victims do it. They're 60, 70, 80 years old, lived a life full of pain and couldn't and did not have the courage to stand up. And then you have the people who do have the courage, and I find myself one of those people who had the courage, who got bit but said at the end of the day, it can't keep me down. I'm going to get my medication. I'm going to go get my anti-venom, and hopefully whatever is inside of me works the correct way and gets the poison out of me. Again, every time that you're bit does not mean that you're going to be cured. It doesn't mean that you're weak, because that's the narrative, right? Everybody wants to say that you're weak because you don't stand up. It's not that you're weak. You just may not have had the courage or strength to get up yet. But I'm here today to tell you, on that other side of there is so much victory. So here's another analogy, right? You're in the middle of the woods, you're in the wild, and you're trying to find your way out. You're looking around, you're walking around, you're looking up, down, every which way. You can't find your way out. And it's like a movie, right? So in the movies, when you're running for help and you're looking for help, and there's a highway, say it's close, and you're so close to it, and there's a breakthrough really, really close. You're not coming out this thing quiet. You're not coming out of this thing saying, I'm not going to say nothing to nobody. I'm just going to do this myself. And woe is me, I'm the victim. Most of the time, you're coming out with a sound. You telling somebody something happened and this is what happened. And that's it. But in the movies, right, they come out the highway, they're yelling, they're screaming, help, help. Oh my gosh, I've been trapped in this for so long. Help, help. And you get help and you find your help and somebody helps you, right? It's no different than that. My medication was just God in the Bible. And I really got into my word. And when you get into the word, things start to align, and you decide that you want to walk in your truth, right? So in that walking in the truth, God is true. God is holy. It started at the beginning of time. God did not intend for this world to be the way that it is. God did not intend for the world to have evil. He used Adam and he used Eve, right? So in the beginning, they were pure. He told them simply, do not eat from this tree, good and evil, right? The tree of knowledge, good and evil. And you had a devil who thought he knew. At one point, he knew more than God did. So he got cast out of heaven. And then he said, you know what? If God's going to kick me out of heaven, me and my angels who feel that we know more than God, we about to go and we about to wreak some havoc. So what does Eve do? She listens to the serpent and she bites of the apple and curses all humanity, basically. Right? That's it in a nutshell. But God's intentions were pure and holy. And he basically said, in other words, if you're going to walk with me, you're going to walk in the truth and the light. So to walk with God and to have that pure, authentic relationship with God, you have to ask yourself that ugly part. What is your bad? What is your sad? What is your embarrassment? What are you ashamed of? Whatever. And again, you don't have to come out and tell the whole world. Just having self-acknowledgement of the things that have happened to you is a start. So just acknowledge what happened to you. Acknowledge that it was wrong. It's not your fault. It's never your fault. I'm sorry. There are situations that we have put ourselves into And I'll go into this in a later video when I talk about another situation that has happened to me, because I put myself in, a situation, but at the end of the day, it's not my fault. You cannot control what another person does to you, especially if you're a child. You may think it's your fault. You may feel guilty about it, but it's not your fault. So God even said to Adam and Eve, I am holy, I am of truth. And because you have did what is incorrect, you now suffer a consequence, which is where sin comes in. So even God gave consequences to those who did wrong. So you're not wrong in what you do. You're not wrong in telling, and you're not wrong in telling your story. Tell it to the world. Shout it to the mountaintop. It's not for anybody to understand the way a victim comes out. It's not for anybody but that victim to understand what that blessing is on the other side. Only God can judge you. Only God can judge even the person that did it to you. It's not my job to judge my grandfather for what he did to me. But I know at the end of the day, it's toxic, and I just can't find myself to be around him, because I know the things that happen. I know the images, but I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I take my story and I really turn it into something that can help another victim. And this is my story. This is who I am. It's a long video, but it's the truth. It's who I am. Like it or don't like it, it doesn't make a difference if you like me personally, because I'm so comfortable in God, and I am so grateful for where he's brought me. And when I say that because I was a child that was suicidal. I was a child who went through depression. I was a child who didn't understand, who now is on the other side of the track, and now say, no matter what, nobody has stopped my truth. Nobody has stopped my light. Nobody has stopped me from walking with God. And no one can shake my faith. And I'm so grateful now that God planted a little seed inside of me and I didn't take my own life. And there's somebody out there on the verge of it. Somebody's on the verge of taking their life or being suicidal and not knowing what to do or how to do it. But I'm here to tell you, and I'm here to encourage you. Tell someone. And if someone does not listen, tell the next person, and then tell that next person, and tell that next person until they listen. There's somebody out there who's going to believe you. Because, again, I didn't think that anybody would actually believe me. My story's not... I was little and I didn't get talked to about it. No one inside of my family talked to me about how it's wrong for someone to touch you inappropriately, tell inappropriate things to you, slap your butt, pinch your butt. Those things are all inappropriate. Those are signs that there's way more going on. So for me as a parent, I talk to my kids. I let them know there is inappropriateness, and no matter what anybody does to you, if anybody ever was to touch you, I will believe you wholeheartedly. I wouldn't question my kids if they ever came to me with something like that. And more than likely, if I would have had the courage at the young age to talk to my mom about it, I know 100% my mom would believe me. When I got to the age and I decided to tell my mom, she believed me without a doubt. She didn't question me, and she hasn't made me feel bad about my truth, because it's my story. She's encouraged me to tell my story to help other people and other victims, because there's so many people whose stories they're going to carry with them, and it's going to kill them. It's going to kill them, and they're going to let it kill them. But I pray that by my video, it helps you to talk to somebody. Tell them your story. It's okay. It's okay. If you still here and you still walking and you still talking, you made it out. I'm here to tell you, you may be in the wilderness, but there's a highway on the other side of there, and it's time for you to bust out. Don't worry about the repercussions of the people around you. They're not going to get it. It's not even for them to get. I don't know, guys. That's just a part of my story. That's one part of many of them that will come out. And again, it's I hope that this helps somebody. I hope that there's somebody that watched this who didn't have the courage to say anything, who now has the courage to say anything, who was abused, and maybe you're older. I don't know. Tell one person. It don't, like I said, don't have to be the world. Tell your friend. If your friend won't listen, tell somebody else. But at least one person, so that it's not on you and you're not holding it in and you're not taking it to bed with you every night. Like I have this secret that I just can't tell anybody. Well, my secret's out. I told the world. Sorry, not sorry. I love you guys, and I want this to help someone. If it helps one person in this world, I've done my job. It's not for everybody to get, but the people who do get it, I'm praying for you. I pray for all victims, whether it's sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, mental health, bullying, anxiety, depression. I don't care what it is. If you're a victim of it, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you tonight. But I love you guys. Please comment below. Share my video. Some people may not share my video because they may not feel like they want something like this on their page. That's cool. This is my story. But check it out. Check out my other stories. Click my other videos. One of my other videos may talk to you more than another one. Like I said, we're going to cover a wide range of things. If you have a topic that you do want to talk about, or you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments below. Inbox me. I may not have the story. I may have the story, and I may have somebody in my pocket that has that story that's willing to tell their story. This ain't a one-person thing, like just because it's my page, I'm only telling my stories. If there's another woman out there who wants to tell her story and you want us to showcase it, inbox me. I will let you know. If I have the experience, I will talk about it. If I don't have the experience, I will find somebody that does. And I have a lot of people that I've talked to and a lot of people that I've told my story to that it doesn't relate to them, but they have their own story and it relates to the next person. I love you guys. Sorry for such a long video. Love you. I'm out. Peace. Stay tuned for my next video. Subscribe on YouTube. Push the subscribe button. Boop. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I love you guys. Don't feel bad for me. Feel bad for the person who's still in it, and share the video so that they have the courage to come out and tell somebody. Love you guys. Mwah.